Hello, little hippie. How are you?
What are you doing here?
They're helping me. They're helping me wake up from my bad hippie dream.
What did you dream about?
I dreamed I gave away all my money.
It's the Esoteric Roberts, Eric Roberts podcast, and today we're talking about Inherent Vice from 2014. I'm here with my hippie friend, Roy.
Long time no talk.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a gap. How have you been?
I've been good. Lots of notes. I forgot last time to mention that I met John Lithgow by chance, and I mentioned to him how much I love his work and that we watched Love's Cheat and Steal starring him and Eric Roberts. And he said, I don't hear that very often. And I said, I bet you don't.
I'm sure he was flattered.
How have you been? Sorry.
I've been well. It's been busy, a little bit of a busy late summer.
What have you been up to?
Funerals and weddings and visitors and everything in between.
I became an uncle yesterday. My brother Rico, he had a little girl.
Well, congratulations to Rico. I'll have to tell him that next time I see him in person.
I caught up on some movies that I'd had around from previous episodes and hadn't had time to watch, like side movies. I watched Gotcha, starring Anthony Edwards from In Cold Blood, and that was terrible. And I watched White Line Fever from the director of In Cold Blood, Jonathan Kaplan, with a villainous L.Q. Jones. That was okay. But I also watched I, the Jury, which I think is the first Armand Assante starring movie from 1982, the adaptation of a Mickey Spillane novel.
Oh, Odysseus himself.
Yes, from the Odyssey. That's right. Oh my God. This is the greatest movie I ever saw. It's like the whole movie is just mayhem, shootouts, and nudity. So I think it features Tia Carrere's older sister, naked a lot, of course.
Tia Carrere has an older sister.
This movie's just straight up a porno of like violence and nudity. It's crazy. I definitely suggest you watch it with your girlfriend. She'll get a huge kick out of it. I bet. It was wild. I saved it to watch again at some point with other people.
Do you have many fond memories of the year 2014?
I'm trying to think. Well, I got dumped by a girl in 2014 and I moved to Los Angeles right at the beginning of 2015. I don't know if I have many fond memories of 2014. It seems like it was all right up until I got dumped.
Kind of a strange non-year. I do remember seeing Inherent Vice in the theater when it came out. It seems like in the latter part of 2014.
Oh, yeah, right towards the end. I saw it at the New Beverly Cinema.
This was a heavy
on film.
This is a heavy Roberts year. He was in a lot of things in this in the year 2014, but maybe this is the highest profile thing that he's been in, or that he was in this year. I mean,
I'm trying to think, like, other than The Expendables and The Dark Knight Rises, like, this has got to be the most high-profile movie he's been in some time that I can think of.
It's the only award that he won in 2014.
Wow, he won an award?
Which was for Inherent Vice, and it was an Independent Spirit Robert Altman Award that was shared with the entire cast.
Best ensemble. I was about to say, he's only in one scene talking.
Yeah. So Roberts plays Mickey Wolfman.
Yes, Michael Z. Wolfman.
Michael Z. And this is a film that is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, adapted from a novel by Thomas Pynchon that we had both read before the film came out. So
you might have read it in 2014.
There's a lot of anticipation leading up to the release of this. And the cast was one of the things that got me psyched on it.
Me too. The cast got me to read the book. I really like Josh Brolin. Benicio del Toro is about my favorite. I love Owen Wilson.
What did you think about the choice of Roberts for Mickey Wolfman before you saw the film?
I don't think that I knew Roberts was Wolfman before I saw the film, or maybe I don't know. I don't know if I had much of an opinion. I knew if it was like the book, he wouldn't be in it much. I don't know that he even has as many lines, and I don't know if he ever talks in the book.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing him in the trailer and them saying the name, so I knew that's who he was playing.
Maybe they did. Yeah,
and thinking,
character,
they got the look right for someone.
He's perfect in a way. Like I want to say that just starting out, he's like really well cast as kind of a more virile Peter Coyote kind of type. It's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yeah. Okay. Well, Paul Thomas Anderson, he adapted this movie or this novel rather.
Another thing. I'm sorry to butt in.
Go ahead.
I talked to our Roberts source. Did you know that Eric Roberts got a record payday in his time for In Cold Blood?
No.
I didn't either.
Surprising.
Well earned. Also, I watched the movie 12 Angry Men for the first time. Have you ever seen that?
No, not the original.
I really found myself identifying with the Jack Warden as the guy who just wants to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tony Danza might have played his part in the remake.
Was Lemon in the remake or the original?
Probably the remake because, he wasn't in the original. I thought it sucked.
This is a film that takes place in the year 1970 on the West Coast in a little fictional seaside town or seaside.
San Gordita Beach.
Burg, would you call it that?
Mm-hmm. Kind of looks like Manhattan Beach or something.
Yeah. I spent some time in my 20s living in Oxnard in a neighborhood called Silver Strand. We called the Strand. And so those beachside bungalows or those beach houses in this opening scene, this opening shot here really kind of took me back to Oxnard days.
And the first shot of the movie tells us it's 1970, which in the book you have to guess. I think at some point that tells you it's the 70s, but you have to really infer from things it tells you in the novel when exactly the book takes place, and it's the spring of 1970 because Doc likes to watch NBA basketball in the book, and he's watching the NBA playoffs, which of course take place in the spring.
Yeah, I remember there being a lot of Manson references dropped, and so that sort of that helps you out in the book. But here, yes, they come right out and they tell you, and they come right out with some narration by Joanna Newsom.
Yeah.
Who is playing Sortilege?
Sortilege, something.
Yeah, who is a minor character in the novel.
She's in it a lot of the character Sortilege. She's probably my least favorite part of the novel in that she's in it a lot. She's kind of a medium of sorts, and she's a friend of Doc's, and he comes to her for advice a lot. And like she's the one that tells him to change his hair. What else does she? She gives him at some point she takes him to a guy's house and they give him acid and help him find some answers. And she's kind of obsessed with a thing called Lemuria, which is a West Coast version of Atlantis. That's like a submerged continent that Pynchon keeps referencing throughout the book. And that's probably maybe my least favorite element of the whole book is all these references to Lemuria, which are cut out of the movie.
So the first character that we meet is Doc Sportello, played by Joaquin Phoenix, looking a lot like Neil Young.
Yes, was on purpose.
Yeah, he's hanging out in his spot, and his ex-old lady, Shasta Faye Hepworth. She comes by and she's rattled.
Played by Catherine Waterston, who I think kind of looks like our buddy Brian Chadlock's wife a little bit. I mean, you've never met his wife, but she kind of has a Catherine Waterston vibe.
You know who she looked a lot like to me? Sam Waterston.
Sam the Eagle.
So much so that it's hard for me to feel any attraction towards Catherine Waterston, who's an attractive woman.
Oh yeah, later on there's a scene with her nude at length, and I was thinking, boy, she's very attractive.
But boy, does she fancy her father.
I don't see it really.
Man, I see it. Yeah, so she pops by the bungalow and she's in trouble. She hasn't been around in about a year. She hasn't been seen around the neighborhood for a year, and she explains to Doc, who's a private detective, that she's involved with a man who I think she explains that he's gone missing in this.
I wondered if Doc's hair lip was a Bugs Bunny reference.
I learned recently that hair lip means that. I don't think I'd ever seen it spelt until a few years ago, and then I realized, oh, okay. I thought it was hair, like Hair, but it makes sense. They should have called it rabbit lip. That would have helped me more. So where were we here? Yeah, so Shasta, there's a lot of plot in this, by the way.
Oh yes, folks. That's why I'm looking forward to just hearing you unload all this plot.
You're going to correct me.
IMDb notes is that Edgar Wright, the director, calls the movie inherent twice because you have to watch it twice to get it. And I was thinking, boy, with jokes like that, it's no wonder I missed the last several Edgar Wright movies.
I mean, he's a preeminent intellectual.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That Edgar Wright. He's got a new one coming out too. A scary movie. I just saw the trailer for it. But anyways, Shasta Faye Hepworth is in trouble, and she's involved with this man who has gone missing, and he's a married man. His wife has a lover as well, and they have a scheme to get rid of this guy. and they want her in on it. So
and the lover is Mickey Wolfman, the husband.
We find out it's Mickey Wolfman, and we find out that his wife and his wife's lover want to have him committed.
And he's a big real estate mogul, and he's gotten into doing acid and weed and stuff, and they're going to use this against him because he wants to give his money away.
Yeah, and he's
decided it was wrong to sell housing to people. The housing should be free.
And Shasta, who used to run with the hippies, has gone straight. So when we see her here, she's more of the straight world persuasion. So she's very paranoid. And she explains that she just had to lose some guys who've been trailing her. And we find out that her and Doc have some history as ex-lovers. And I think Waterston is pretty good in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Phoenix is so horrible. I mean, he has his moments in other scenes in this film, but
yeah,
I don't know his take on the whole thing. It's not really a take. It's just a lack of conviction or something.
And there's the whole, I guess we'll get to this through at some point, but this is not a comedic scene, really. There, I guess, is supposed to be some kind of humor here, but it's the movie has poor comedic timing with editing, I feel like, throughout. Like jokes,
I agree.
It kind of maybe tries to sell you too hard on the hazy stoniness of the period instead of like really letting the joke snap in a way that'll make you laugh.
I absolutely agree. Couldn't agree more.
But this scene, even in the book, didn't really crack me up. It took me a minute to get into the book, and part of this scene was kind of like, I was like, well, I don't know. This is the first Thomas Pynchon novel I read. I didn't know what I was in for.
Yeah, he asks her if she wants to stay with him, and she says she's got to go. So he walks her out, and when he goes out onto the street is kind of when a little bit more of the flavor of Gordita Beach starts to come in, the locale. So he puts her in her car, and she takes off, and he meets his buddy Denis, who's
Denis or Dennis, but everybody says his name like penis.
Yeah, Denis.
Yes.
And then we meet Sortilege in the flesh for the first time in some pizza parlor. She tells him to change his hair, change his life. So Doc's giving himself a perm, and he calls his aunt.
He gives himself a fro.
Yeah.
With tinfoil. Yeah.
With like pieces of tore up t-shirt.
Oh, that's right. It's t-shirt. That's right. Yes. I forgot.
You ever tried to give yourself a fro?
No.
Me neither. So he calls his Aunt Reet on the phone, who's played by Jeannie Berlin.
The great Jeannie Berlin. If I have one movie recommendation, it's go out. If you haven't seen the movie Margaret, which I understand is becoming kind of a cult movie over time, she is fantastic in that movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I like her a lot. She is May, what's her name's daughter?
Yeah, Elaine May.
Elaine May's daughter. Yeah. And Jeannie Berlin is the narrator for the audiobook of the Pynchon novel Bleeding Edge.
Oh, really? That makes a lot of sense. She's a good choice because she's very New York, and that's a New York book about a woman who's a bounty hunter.
Yeah, she sounds kind of like a female Zoidberg to me sometimes.
Sure.
Where were you on the evening in question? So this Aunt Reet character is kind of in the know about land and real estate.
Yeah, that movie, Margaret, if that had movie found an audience, there's just no doubt in my mind she would have won Best Supporting Actress. Oh man, she blew me away.
Yeah, I want to revisit that. I'm a big fan of that guy. I've seen
Logjam, Kenneth Loggerheads.
I've seen Manchester by the Sea more than one time, and I'm a big fan. Aunt Reet explains to Doc that Mickey Wolfman rolls around with some Aryan bikers. Do you remember the name of the gang? Is there some kind of...
Can't remember.
Yeah, and she explains a little bit more about Mickey, that he's eccentric.
He's a Jewish guy who hangs out with these Aryan bikers.
Yeah.
Security.
Yeah. And she recommends to Doc to check out his latest edition. And right after he gets off the phone with her, he sees an ad for the edition on TV for this housing development. And the guy in the ad is Bigfoot Bjornsson, played by Josh Brolin,
who is Lieutenant Detective Christian F. Bjornsson, but everybody calls him Bigfoot. And he's, I guess, like is suggested in the novel, like a lot of cops or something, also wants to be an actor.
Yeah.
And so in this ad, he plays a hippie, and he's got a fro and a crazy medallion and stuff.
Yeah, Bigfoot right off the bat was my favorite. Like, it's the thing that I liked. The first thing I liked watching it was this this TV ad. 12 minutes in to the film, we see Eric Roberts in a newspaper ad, a Mickey Wolfman newspaper ad.
At the end of the ad on TV, Bigfoot seems to be speaking directly to Doc through the television.
Yeah, a lot of stoner freak out stuff that kind of subtly worked in here. Not to great effect, but they try. Doc works in a doctor's office. His detective office is in this what's his name? Dr. Tubeside.
Yes, he and it looks like his office is in the doctor's office in this movie. In fact, I think it is. And it looks like they're giving like oxygen and stuff. This is the first major departure from the novel, in that we don't see the outside of the office. We don't see that they actually have, in the novel, it's an upstairs, downstairs, and Doc has the upstairs and the doctor has the downstairs. But what we see in this is Doc entering into the office from the interior, and it's a very plain office with, I think, Jabba the Hutt as Petunia, receptionist, nurse of Dr. Buddy Tubeside. But this is described quite differently in the book, and this is the moment that I fell in love with this book and Thomas Pynchon. I just wanted to read this part. This leads into the scene where he meets Tariq Khalil, who was played by the late Michael Kenneth Williams, who passed away just a couple of days before we were recording this. But I thought I'd read this just to show you how much better this movie could have been. Doc's office was located near the airport off East Imperial. He shared the place with a Dr. Buddy Tubeside, whose practice consisted largely of injecting people with vitamin B, a euphemism for the physician's own blend of amphetamines. Today, early as it was, Doc still had to edge his way past a line of B12 deficient customers, which already stretched back to the parking lot. Beachtown housewives of a certain melancholy index, actors with casting calls to show up at, deeply tanned geezers looking ahead to an active day of schmoozing in the sun, steward eye just in off some high-stress red eye, even a few legit cases of pernicious anemia or vegetarian pregnancy. All shuffling along, half asleep, chain smoking, talking to themselves, sliding one by one into the lobby of the little cinder block building through a turnstile, next to which, holding a clipboard and checking them in, stood Petunia Leeway, a stunner in a starched cap and micro-length medical outfit, not so much an actual nurse uniform as a lascivious commentary on one, which Dr. Tubeside claimed to have bought a truckload of from Fredericks of Hollywood, in a variety of fashion pastels, today's being aqua, at close to wholesale. Morning, Doc. Petunia managed to put a lounge singer lilt onto it, the vocal equivalent of batting mink eyelashes at him. Love your fro. Howdy, Petunia. Still married to what's his name? Oh, Doc. On first signing the lease, the two tenants, like bunkmates at summer camp, had tossed a coin for who'd get the upstairs suite, and Doc had lost, or as he liked to think of it, won. The sign on his door read LSD Investigations. LSD, as he explained when people asked, which was not often, standing for Location Surveillance Detection. Beneath this was a rendering of a giant bloodshot eyeball and psychedelic favorites green and magenta, the detailing of whose literally thousands of frenzied capillaries had been subcontracted out to a commune of speed freaks who had long since migrated up to Sonoma. Potential clients have been known to spend hours gazing at the ocular mazework, often forgetting what they'd come here for. A visitor was here already, in fact, waiting for Doc. What made him unusual was he was a black guy. To be sure, black folks were occasionally spotted west of the Harbor Freeway, but to see one this far out of the usual range, practically by the ocean, was pretty rare. Last time anybody could remember a black motorist in Gordita Beach, for example, anxious calls for backup went out on all the police vans, a small task force of cop vehicles assembled, and roadblocks were set up all along Pacific Coast Highway. An old Gordita reflex dating back to shortly after the Second World War, when a black family had actually tried to move into town and the citizens, with helpful advice from the Ku Klux Klan, had burned the place to the ground, and then, as if some ancient curse had come into effect, refused to allow another house to ever be built on the site. The lot stood empty until the town finally confiscated it and turned it into a park, where the youth of Gordita Beach, by the laws of karmic adjustment, were soon gathering at night to drink, dope, and fuck, depressing their parents, though not property values particularly. Say, Doc greeted his visitor, what it is, my brother? Never mind that shit, replied the black guy, introducing himself as Tariq Khalil and staring for a while, under different circumstances offensively, at Doc's afro. Well, come on in. In Doc's office were a pair of high-backed banquettes covered in padded fuchsia plastic, facing each other across a formica table at a pleasant tropical green. This was in fact a modular coffee shop booth, which Doc had scavenged from a renovation in Hawthorne. He waved Tariq into one of the seats and sat down across from him. It was cozy. The tabletop between them was littered with phone books, pencils, 3x5 index cards, boxed and loose, road maps, cigarette ashes, a transistor radio, roach clips, coffee cups, and an Olivetti Latera 22, into which Doc, mumbling, just start a ticket on this, inserted a sheet of paper, which appeared to have been used repeatedly for some strange compulsive origami. Tariq watched skeptically. Secretary's off today? Something like that. But I'll take some notes here and it'll all get typed up later. Okay, so there's this guy I was in the joint with. White guy. Aryan bro, as a matter of fact. We did some business. Now we're both out. He still owes me. I mean, it's a lot of money. I can't give you details. I swore an oath I wouldn't tell. How about just his name? Glenn Sharlock. Sometimes the way somebody says a name, you get a vibration. Tariq was talking like a man whose heart had been broken. You know where he's staying now? Only who he works for. He's a bodyguard for a builder named Wolfman. Doc had a moment of faint-headedness, drug-induced, no doubt. He came out of it on paranoia alert, not enough he hoped for Tariq to notice. He pretended to study the ticket he was making out. If you don't mind my asking, Mr. Khalil, how did you hear about this agency? Sledge Poteet. Wow, blast from the past. Said you helped him out of a situation back in 67. First time I ever got shot at. You guys know each other from the place? They were teaching us both how to cook. Sledge still has maybe a year more in there. I remember when he couldn't boil water. Should see him now. He can boil tap water, Arrowhead Springs water, club soda, Perrier, you name it. He the boiler man. So if you don't mind an obvious question, you know where Glenn Sharlock works now. Why not just go over there and look him up directly? Why hire some go-between? Because this Wolfman is surrounded day and night with some Aryan Brotherhood army. And outside of Glenn, I've never enjoyed cordial relations with those Nazi-ass motherfuckers. Oh, so send some white guy in to get his head hammered. More or less. I would have preferred somebody a little more convincing. What I lack in altitude, Doc explained for the millionth or so time in his career, I make up for in attitude. Okay, that's possible. I've seen that on the yard now and then. When you were inside, you were in a gang, Black Guerrilla Family, George Jackson's outfit. And you say you did business with who now? The Aryan Brotherhood? We found we shared many of the same opinions about the U.S. government. That racial harmony, I can dig it. Tariq was looking at Doc with a peculiar intensity, and his eyes had grown yellow and pointed. Oh, there's something else, Doc guessed. My old street gang, Artesia Crips. When I got out of Chino, I went looking for some of them and found it ain't just got them gone, but the turf itself. Far out. What do you mean? Not there. Grinded up into little pieces. Seagulls all picking at it. Figure I must be tripping, driving around for a while, come back, everything's still gone. Uh-huh. Doc typed, not hallucinating. Doc is nobody and nothing. Ghost town, except for this big sign coming soon on this site. Houses for Peckerwood prices, shopping mall, some shit. Guess who the builder on it? Wolfman again. That's it. On the wall, Doc had a map of the region. Show me. The area Tariq pointed to looked to be a fairly straight shot from here eastward down Artesia Boulevard, and Doc realized after a minute and a half of map reading that it had to be the site of Channelview Estates. He pretended to run an ethnicity scan on Tariq. You're like, what again? Japanese? How long you been doing this? Looks closer to Gardenia than Compton's, all I'm saying. WW2, said Tariq. Before the war, a lot of South Central was still a Japanese neighborhood. Those people got sent to camps. We come on in to be the next Japs. And now it's your turn to get moved along. More white man's revenge. Freeway up by the airport wasn't enough. Revenge for Watts, the riots. Some of us say insurrection. The man, he just waits for his moment. Long, sad history of L.A. land use, as Aunt Reet never tired of pointing out. Mexican families bounced out of Chavez Ravine to build Dodger Stadium. American Indians swept out of Bunker Hill for the Music Center. Tariq's neighborhood bulldozed aside for Channelview Estates. If I can get a hold of your prison buddy, will he honor his debt to you? I can't tell you what it is. No need. Oh, and the other thing is I can't give you nothing up in front. Groovy with that. Sledge was right. You are one crazy white motherfucker. How can you tell? I counted. That's the end of chapter 1. Now, instead of that, in the movie, we get blank white walls and none of this color almost.
Yeah, the whole life is drained out of the proceedings. And this in the film was really where I started to wish that, I mean, I know it's like, it's not cool to always evaluate things on what they should have or could have been instead of what they are. But I fall into that every now and then. And with this one, I couldn't help but feel like I wish it would have had the energy of like, to be honest, I wish it had the Terry Gilliam energy.
Sure, like even Tarantino.
Yeah. I mean,
The book reminded me of The Simpsons.
Yes. And I kind of feel like Tarantino, in his own funny way, really dunked on PTA when he made Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a very similar film set in a similar milieu. But I feel like he just pulled it off with way more panache.
Just comedic timing, just tightness of editing. Even though I'm not as big a fan of you of that movie, yeah, it's just the tightness of like snapping between things and keeping tension and stuff. And even just the way Tarantino brings tension and just tries to bring tension into scenes that normally wouldn't even have it, like people talking in a TV show. It's like, wouldn't that have worked good for paranoia of a stoner, like in the book and then scenes in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's a real like malaise to this whole everything that like what's the word I'm looking for? Not lackadaisical, laconic. The movie's very laconic in a way the book is not, even though it's about characters who might be laid back and stoned. The book itself is like fast,
it's colorful and high energy.
Yeah, tons of characters, tons of jokes.
Yeah. Well, and you have characters named things like Sancho Smilax, or you have Bigfoot Bjornsson.
Yes,
and
it's like a cartoon.
The acting doesn't jibe with that at all. So it's very frustrating to watch.
One time,
and some people.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, some people kind of get it. Like some of the actors that are here, they kind of get it. And one of them shows up in this next scene after the one you read, where Doc shows up at this Channelview Estates, and he goes into this chick parlor, massage parlor, and we meet this character Jade, played by Hong Chow.
Yes, and Jade is delightful in the book and delightful in the movie. I love Hong Chow.
I do too, and I think she really shines in this.
She really does. So there was a fun, like, you almost want Jade and Doc to end up together or something.
Yeah, she gets the material. She's probably the easiest person to understand in the film.
I remember also, not the first, this is the first time I saw her, I think, but she's also in that movie Downsized,
yes,
where Kristen Wiig leaves Matt Damon and then he ends up with her. I was thinking, who would you rather be married to, Hong Chow or Kristen Wiig? I think Hong Chow's the better actor, funnier, and maybe prettier.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, she's so good.
So Doc shows up here and he gets it mixed up into this massage parlor thing, and then somewhere in here he gets knocked unconscious.
Yes, he goes to find Glenn Charlock at the massage parlor where the Aryan Brotherhood have been. The massage parlor is right on the Channelview Estates building area, and I guess the Aryan Brotherhood have been using it as a hangout. And they tell him, no, they know Glenn Charlock. He comes in there a lot.
Yeah, and as Doc is pulling up there, he's driving through all these bikers that are leaving.
Mm-hmm. And when he goes in, we see people coming out of the bushes, like cops and stuff.
Yeah, so he gets knocked unconscious by an unknown assailant, and when he wakes up outside right next to a dead guy.
Who is Glenn Charlock.
A dead biker who is Glenn Charlock.
Did you see who played Glenn Charlock?
No.
It's the guy who is the special effects guy. I forget the man's name, but he's the guy that plays the groom in Kill Bill.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of my favorites. I'm not a big fan of Kill Bill, but I love him in Kill Bill. So I like to live dangerously.
Yeah, he's plays a good douche.
Yeah. But yeah, he was Glenn Charlock here. Maybe he did the makeup effects or something for the movie. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, Charlock has no lines in the film. I don't remember if he does in the
I don't think so. Novel. I think it's exactly the same. He wakes up next to the corpse of Charlock.
Yeah, he wakes up and there's all these police officers out there, and he finds himself in Bjornsson's office where he's being grilled before Doc's attorney shows up, Sancho.
Yes, Sancho Smila, played by the immortal Benicio del Toro. This is the second thing where it's like they really should have had a scene. If you're going to do this movie and you're going to have Sancho, you need to have a quick flashback scene of how he and Doc met. That's in the book. Is that Doc, he's not really Doc's lawyer, but they became friends because Sancho's a lawyer that has just recently discovered weed smoking and become a big stoner. And the first time he smoked weed, he went to the store to buy stuff to make a chocolate cake. And he and Doc's, what do you call them, carts ran into each other. And he asked Doc if he could put some of the stuff in his cart so that the people working there wouldn't know he was stoned because of the cake stuff. And they end up like both just adding a bunch of buying a ton of crazy stuff because they're both so paranoid they'll get busted for being stoned. And we don't even really know that there's no point where they tell us even in this movie that Sancho is a stoner.
Yeah, we never see him
kind of red-eyed later and stony, but he doesn't seem stoned here.
No, he specializes in maritime law and basically gets Doc off because of civil rights violation stuff.
Yeah, and Doc's clearly just totally, I mean, Bigfoot knows ahead of time Doc's innocent, but we don't know that he knows that, I guess.
Yeah, so we start to realize that Bigfoot.
We get our first Manson reference. He's like, this scene is kind of funny at times with your cult. Not great, but not terrible.
That night, Bigfoot calls Doc to let him know that Shasta is now also missing. And he kind of fucks
this
with
is
Doc.
Really funny. Yeah, in the book, and kind of funny where he tells her she's gone. It's just, yeah, she's gone.
Yeah. And this is Joaquin being a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. Upon seeing this movie for about the fourth time, he didn't bother me so much.
Yeah, I just feel he's inconsistent.
True.
And that bothers me. But
one more note on Sancho is that a thing they cut out of the movie that I can understand cutting out is that a running gag is that anytime Doc calls Sancho for anything, Sancho's watching something on TV and is stoned and smoking pot and has some deep read on what he's watching. And they're not often that great. But one he has is about Charlie Tuna and Chicken to the Sea. And he talks about how Charlie Tuna is dressed up in like a monocle and stuff. And he wants to be all bourgeois, not a free tuna. He wants to be in the net and be put in the can of capitalism to be consumed. And he represents all of us. And that Charlie's name is the same as Manson's and the Viet Cong's. But another one he talks about is he's watching Wizard of Oz, and he talks about how that, for Dorothy, Kansas is in color too. So that Oz must be some kind of crazy LSD hypercolor to her, which got me thinking, what did people think when black and white TVs became color TVs? Because people, like probably a generation, would have watched black and white TV and seen the movie only in black and white, unless they were at like a repertory theater. They might not even have known half the movie was in color. So I asked someone about this who was around then. He said that it was a big deal that the network advertised for weeks ahead of time that they were going to be showing Wizard of Oz for the first time in color. But then when the first part's in black and white, lots of people thought that the TV station messed up and called in and complained that they weren't showing it in color.
That's cool. I would have thought just the legend of the way it was presented in theaters, what people would have known about it.
Probably some people did. But
yeah, like my grandmother saw it in 39.
Yeah.
See, I don't think they should have advertised it in color at all. That would have been
probably got big ratings.
Yeah. Maybe less people would have tuned in, but imagine if they didn't advertise it.
And then it just blew your mind.
And then, you're watching it and you're like, what?
True.
Doc gets another call from a widow, Hope Harlingen, whose husband was a surf saxophone player named Coy Harlingen. Harlingen or Harlingen?
I think that I'm not sure.
I think it's Harlingen. There's a town in Texas called Harlingen. Maybe it's a reference to that.
And
how did
Coy and Jenna Malone as Hope Harlingen? I kind of have a crush on Jenna Malone.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you had seen her in person.
Yeah, I saw her from afar once in LA, and I was like, "Ooh, I like this."
He goes to see her. Well, we're not quite there yet. Some other stuff happens, but
go ahead. Sorry.
Do you remember how Coy died? How does he end up dead?
Coy was given a hot dose, OD'd on a dose he bought from a dealer known as El Drano.
Okay. Well, she doesn't think that he's dead, and she wants Doc to go check it out. So this is another. So now we're up to three cases that he's working on, and he goes and visits his current girlfriend Penny in the DA office.
Yeah, it was kind of like they have a kind of a no strings attached kind of thing, on again, off again, lovers kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and Reese Witherspoon plays this character, and she's a very straight world persuasion person who gets off on dirty hippies.
Yes,
that's her kink.
I thought she's really good in the movie too.
Me too, yeah, and I thought she looked good in it as well.
Yeah, she's perfect for this part, and and it is true, for like they say from what's the other movie they were in, Ring of Fire. No, I Walk the Line. Is they do have some chemistry, he and her.
Yeah, and I had read that in the behind the scenes stuff about Inherent Vice that they had like a chemistry, or they just have like a friendship with each other.
Yeah, and Thomas Anderson, it said he wanted to add in more scenes of her, and she talked him out of it. There are many more scenes of her in the book, so they were there to be had. But
yeah,
whatever.
You could really do Inherent Vice as a miniseries.
Oh yeah, it would be. I mean, if you asked me, I would just say don't do it as a movie.
Well, you remember what I told you? I would have liked to have seen it animated, in the style of like Fritz the Cat.
Oh yeah, there's a movie about a detective called Revengeance, an animated film made by Bill Plimpton and another animator from just a few years ago, or several years ago now, but not that many years ago. That is pretty wacky and would have been a good style for this.
Yeah, I thought it could have captured it well. I remember.
Yeah, you're right. Animation would have been perfect, but still, even then, you'd want a miniseries just to jam it all in. There's so much in this. This is not one of those. It's a 369-page novel, but it's not one of those books where not a lot happens. It's like a lot happens.
Yeah, it's convoluted in a very fun way. You get lost in the mysteries, some which don't really go anywhere, and others that intertwine. Yeah. So there's a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah, and you just with anything like I'm okay with him cutting Lumeria, but it's like some of the other stuff you're like, man, why even do it if you're going to cut that?
I forget what Doc is talking to Penny about here. He meets her on a park bench or outside somewhere. Something about the Wolfman case. I guess.
And then she leads him into. She's giving him up to the feds for questioning. Right. This is where we meet the Flatweed and what's the other guy's name? They're two FBI detectives, and agents, and one is Flatweed and the other one is something else. Oh, Agent Borderline and Flatweed. And Agent Borderline is played by Timothy Simons, whom I once talked to and asked him, and he said he did not meet Thomas Pynchon on the set because there was a legend that Thomas Pynchon was in the movie. He said right. He didn't see him.
Yeah, there's a scene with some FBI guys. And then Hong Chow reappears. He talks to Hong Chow outside of a nightclub, and she admits that she was forced to set him up outside of the massage parlor. And then she says she wants to introduce him to someone who wants to talk to him. And this is where we meet Owen Wilson as Coy Harlingen.
Yes, you may have seen when he met Jenna Malone earlier, I think we saw photographs of Coy Harlingen shooting up in various places. They look like just all these very squalor. This is one of the funny parts of the movie is the photographs of Owen Wilson really made me laugh, where it's like each one is like really squalid, what do you call, whatever, but he looks so happy because he's just shooting up heroin. He's blissed out in every one.
Yeah,
like, to the extreme. Funny. It really made me laugh. But I really liked Owen Wilson in this movie. I felt that he gave the kind of a sadness to this that really worked for me.
Yeah, me too. He's one of the ones who kind of I think he got the vibe, and he looks perfect. He looks like middle period Beach Boy.
Oh yeah,
or later period, I guess.
Yeah, the blonde hair. It's like the casting in this overall is really good. Like, I mean, I think that the movies got it wrong with tone and timing, comedic timing, more than like they set themselves up a pretty picture with Josh Brolin is just perfect for Big Bjornsson.
With Dinas and Coy especially, but a lot of the other characters, I remember it's a very specific kind of hippie. It's this LA, it's people who came from the surf scene who kind of evolved more into the counterculture, drug culture. And I mean, really, I think with the wardrobe and everything, I mean, they capture that pretty well. And there's some more surf rock stuff that we get to here in a little bit. But yeah, Coy wants Doc to go and check on Hope, who you said there's a scene where he goes and meets Jenna Malone as Hope.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I thought I got these out of order. Yeah, and it turns out Coy is not dead. He is working for COINTELPRO.
Yeah, he's kind of working as a counter-subversive agent.
They're dropping him into the government is behind it.
Yeah, and so there's mention of the Golden Fang.
Ah.
And I cannot remember where Doc first heard this in the movie. Somehow it comes up, and he asks Coy if he knows anything about it. And there's like a really good Owen Wilson delivery where he's like, yeah, It's a boat. And he says it's a boat that brings stuff in and out of the country. And there's a nice kind of good stoner freak out thing that they nail here where he's like, yeah, I saw it come in. And did you just see it pass by? You remember this?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what I just saw. And the atmosphere in this scene is nice. It's all foggy. It's pretty good. It's nice and noir-y and foggy, and Owen Wilson's killing it.
With a fake nose or something here?
I don't know. Owen Wilson
like he
has a crazy nose
in this movie. He does have a crazy nose, but I feel like he had a fake nose in this movie that was a little more Nixon-esque.
Maybe so, yeah. A little more dick nose than usual. I wonder if that was
like supposed to be a disguise for him or something, but in the book they bring up that he didn't even need a disguise because no one paid that much attention to him when he was alive.
Yeah, he's back. He had played with this band, and it was like he's like, man, I was a saxophone player. They didn't even know who I was. They didn't even pay attention to me. Yeah. So they don't even realize that he's much died.
Like the Beach Boys or something. A lot of the original members aren't even there anymore.
Right.
A lot of people he never even played with.
And the ones who are still around don't even recognize him because they're just all so stoned out. That's pretty good. So the next thing that happens is Doc visits Wolfman's home, where his wife, Sloane, played by
Serena Scott Thomas, Kristen Scott Thomas's little sister.
Okay. What do we know her from?
I didn't know her really offhand from anything. I watched her. I mean, maybe looking back, she's been in stuff I've seen, but I watched for preparation for this. I watched like a 5-hour masterpiece theater version of Joseph Conrad's Nostromo with she and Colin Firth and Albert Finney.
Oh my goodness! So I forget, is Kristen Scott Thomas a Brit?
Yes, they're Brits.
Okay. Is she doing a British accent in this?
I don't. Yeah, maybe. I think that there's something about she's like some kind of English rose a little bit, but more like English daffodil or something, they say.
Okay.
Right? And all the cops are at her house and having a backyard party. And there's a shot where Doc scans this backyard. And I swear it's like a riff on a famous painting. And I could not for the life of me find the painting to tell everybody what painting it was. But I saw one time in an art book in college, this painting of a backyard barbecue in California. And I swear this shot of these cops is off that painting. But it's like, I can't find it. But she also brings up something here where that the lighting in the house was done by James Wong Howe, the cinematographer. And the book brings up that it was during his period where he was kind of semi-blacklisted for being a commie. And one of the big themes in the book that's not in the movie is that Doc has a real fondness. His favorite actor is James Garfield, who was blacklisted himself for being a communist, showing sort of Doc's counterculture love because he loves John Garfield. And James Wong Howe shot the last movie John Garfield was in. He Ran All the Way Home, which I just by coincidence saw right before we watched this movie.
Yeah, I don't think I knew who Garfield was until I read the book, and I still don't think I've seen any films with him.
He's good. He's in a lot of old noirs like Postman Always Rings Twice, and what's the one? Force of Evil, one of my favorites.
I remember Doc in the book is very film savvy.
And people in general, it's one of the running jokes of the book that's so funny is people will always reference movies, and then afterwards in the dialogue, and in their dialogue will be a parenthesis with the year of the film. Like they said it like that. Like it's like they'll be like, he ran all the way home, 1946 or whatever year that movie came out. Yeah, it's very good. Also with the FBI agents and stuff, at some point we realized that this isn't in the movie, that maybe the whole, like a big reason they're doing that, they're trying to, with the COINTELPRO and stuff, is they're trying to get some kind of scandal stink off Reagan, who is, as Daniel Brinkley doesn't know, would be the governor of California during the time this movie takes place.
That's right. Yeah, I did laugh when they mentioned Reagan in the movie. I laughed. I was like, Brinkley. So we meet the wife, Sloane. Doc is pretending to be a banker of some kind.
Yes, he's pretending to work for a banker. That's right.
Get some dirt on Wolfman, and he meets the lover, Riggs,
who is played by not a very famous actor named Andrew Simpson as Riggs Warbling,
who she says is her spiritual coach.
Yes, I watched a Western a low budget Western from like 2015 or something starring him and Don Swayze. And it started off real crappy, but by the end I was like, for a Z grade Western, not too shabby. I kind of liked it.
Yeah,
it was at least
Z grade.
mediocre.
For a Z grade.
Yeah, not for a great movie. Speaking of Westerns, have you seen News of the World?
No, sir.
With Tom Hanks? Oh my goodness. Here's a Western I turned off. Here's an A-budget Western that's about an old man reading newspapers to a little girl. And then it's also about like all the first action in the movie is he just has to run away with her from a team of like child molesters who want to buy her on the streets of Texas. It's like a mix of The Postman and The Road, but set in post-Civil War Texas. And I was like, I don't even think in Texas in like 1870 you would have people, or 1865 you would just have like a team of child molesters working together to like steal your child. Like they can't find a child anywhere else or something. It's like I was just like, this is just ridiculous. It just hates both fun Westerns and Texas.
Here's a fun fact, Roy. I just recently learned that Tom Hanks was originally cast as the Kevin Costner character in The Postman. But he dropped out to play Forrest Gump.
Whoa. Well, and it got delayed, and I guess Costner ended up directing The Postman.
Forrest Gump, the original title, which was The Retard. So he left The Postman because he wanted to be the retard.
Wow, he made a good decision there.
Got him the Oscar.
Yeah, boy, The Postman, what a head scratcher.
Yeah. So what all's going on here in this scene? The thing that I remember the most is the cops partying and barbecuing.
Yeah, and this is why where they beat up Doc outside the house, I think.
Doc is going through a collection of naked lady ties in Wolfman's closet, which is fun.
And the maid Luce is in there. And Luce and Doc in the book and a little bit in the film have a flirtation.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the book they actually end up having sex at some point.
And he gets pounded on by Bigfoot, who is there when he comes outside. Later in that day, I believe, he gets a call from Sancho.
1 second. I got to pee really bad.
Drink up, let me fill your cup with the promise of a man. And I'll sit you down in a young girl's town with your mother in so much pain. I was almost there, top of the stairs.
This part is also where we have one of the really funny lines that the movie messes up with timing, where Doc asks Bigfoot about the Coy Harlingen thing briefly. And he says, well, who usually handles resurrections or who handles resurrections? And Bigfoot says, I don't know, Bunko Squad usually. And I thought it was a really funny line, but it's the exact line from the book. It's in the movie, and it's just the movie that just lets it lay there.
Bunko Squad. The scene that I was getting to was a scene with Doc and Sancho hanging out by the seaside.
Yes, at that crazy restaurant.
And they're checking out the Golden Fang, and Sancho explaining that he heard Wolfman was last seen boarding the Golden Fang.
Possibly with Shasta.
Yes, and then later, Sancho calls to add that he's received the tip that Shasta is on board. And I really like the Benicio delivery of not known. So we have Penny comes by Doc's place, and they're smoking some joints and they're watching some TV, and it's like a Nixon rally or a Nixon event. I think Nixon has already been elected at this point.
Sure, he'd be 2 years into his first term.
So we see Coy like causing a disruption at this Nixon event on TV, some kind of press conference. He shows up as
a revolutionary or something, and causes trouble at it. I think gets busted or something.
With Phoenix with a nice reaction as he's watching it, smoking the weed. And I just like him and Witherspoon here. It's one of those things that really just captures, I think, the 60s a little bit.
Yeah, and so she explains to him that he's like, wait, he's supposed to be a counter-revolutionary. Why is he doing this? Now he's all blown up on TV. She's like, well, now with him on TV as a subversive, it's like they can drop him into any group and they'll have him in because he's like got so much street cred after this moment. It's really smart.
Yeah, he's like a crisis actor. So from there, we move to a mansion party where Doc is posing as a photographer and he's got Dinas along with him. Doc is posing as a journalist and Dinas is a photographer.
Yes,
perhaps.
Stone Turntable Magazine. Interview the boards.
Yeah, so this surf band and the boards are crashing at this mansion, and it's a strange scene in there.
Yes.
They seem to be all LSD'd out.
Yeah, in the book, they're described as being zombies, more or less. And there's a lot of zombie stuff in the book, which I can understand how that would be hard to get across. It was hard to get even in the book, really.
He runs into Coy here at the party and explains to him that his wife and his child are good and that she's clean, which makes Coy very happy. And this is where he explains a little bit more that he is working for the government and for LAPD. It's both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's working as this agent who's getting moved around, doing different things.
And he also finds out, he asks him, who put you in touch with these people? Is what Doc asks Coy. Coy says, it's funny, in this line I learned how many times people ask you a question they already know the answer to. They just want to hear somebody else say it. And he's like, talk to Shasta Fay, talk to Shasta Fay. And that in the book is one of the big third act resolutions. One of the big ending resolutions is that he finds out that when they were going out, he was so stoned that he didn't notice that Shasta was sneaking out sometimes and shooting heroin. And that's how she met Coy. And she's the one that got Coy into all this counter-revolution COINTELPRO stuff. And it kind of hurts him, that she's a government agent, or that she's, helping somebody help the man.
It's not really explained in the movie, though, right?
No, he does. Coy does say more or less that she got him in by saying, talk to Shasta Fay, when he doesn't answer the question, but there's no weight given to it.
Yeah, this scene, man, with Owen Wilson and Phoenix is just it's just so long and dragging. It's one shot. It's not impressive. It's low thyroid. It's just, it doesn't hook you at all. It didn't hook me. Some people say that the pension cameo is in this scene, that he's some guy walking around outside behind the window, but I would doubt that Pension's really in it.
Yeah, I don't feel like
fun
he
to
is.
imagine.
I just looked at it like the closest thing, there's a guy with a background when they go to like the FBI office or something, or no, maybe when they're at like Criscoladon or whatever, however you pronounce that,
yeah.
And like way in the background of one of those scenes or something. But it's like he would be an older man in this, and like would kind of stand out in some of these scenes like this one. But I don't know. I never saw anybody that looked like how he looks to me.
Yeah, the last known picture of Thomas Pynchon is from 2018. I wonder if you've seen that picture.
I have.
Oh man, he looks hilarious. He looks like real shocked and paranoid in the picture. Like his buzz is being killed hardcore in that picture.
Oh yeah, he did not want to have that picture taken. The one from the 90s, I feel like he looked more like maybe he didn't even know his picture was taken or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, okay. So I forget how this scene ends in this mansion. It kind of
Jade's there, and because the other hooker from the whatever the prostitution place they work at, the massage paradise or something, what's that called? Planet Massage, Chick
Planet.
Yeah, Chick Planet.
He gives Jade a ride home, right?
Or no, she loves the band Spotted Dick, and they're there hanging out too. Yeah, and he gives Jade a ride home.
Yeah,
and Dinas, and I think Dinas has oral sex with Jade.
She reiterates when he drops her off to beware of the golden fang. And then she kind of explains a little bit more that they're a heroin operation. Forget all the details of that.
And we've also at this point had Criscoladon mentioned, which is a clinic up in Ojai, some kind of a medical clinic, inpatient medical clinic that
a rehab of some kind.
That Wolfman has contributed money to.
Yeah. Ojai, which is a town that we've both been to. You've been
yes.
there. Yeah.
And Ojai is kind of famous for being spiritual stuff for hippies. They say there's a big Chumash burial ground there and a vortex. And I want to think that Criscoladon in some ways is kind of based on this big country club there called the Ojai Valley Inn and Spa, which I once had an interview to be a bartender there, and you had to pass a drug test and a rigorous background check. And I passed the drug test, but failed the background check because years before, like I had been arrested in Oklahoma for failure to appear in court for a traffic ticket. I did not get the job because of that.
I find it hilarious that you would be drug tested for a job in Ojai.
Yeah. It's like a very this Ojai Valley Inn and Spa is like a big deal. It's a big, it's a real fancy pants operation.
The next client that we meet is Glenn Sharlock's sister.
Yes,
I forget her name.
Porn actor.
Yeah, Belladonna.
Yeah,
her porn star name.
Who was also supposed to be really hot in the book. book, but I didn't find this. She had a nice derriere, but I did not find the lady very hot. She looked like a porn actor.
She looked like a porn star.
Bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget what she...
It's like, in the movie, it's like Doc is just constantly wanting to hit on her, but she likes to have sex with two dudes at once.
Yeah, that's her thing. I forget what she even asks him to do. Sherlock's dead.
She turns him on to Puck Beaverton in some way.
Who's another Aryan.
Yeah, it's another one of these bikers, and she had been having sex with Puck. She had been Puck Beaverton's girlfriend in West Hollywood, and Puck Beaverton has this roommate named Einar. And I don't think it's brought up in the movie, but in the book, Einar is a former prison mate of Puck's, and they're also very much having sex. Like, they're kind of a couple.
Okay.
And they go to Vegas and try to rig slot machines and steal all this money, which is not in the movie, any of this Vegas stuff, which is like, when I read the book, I was thinking they're not going to do this Vegas stuff.
Yeah, this is another snoozer scene. This scene really could have been cut from the film. They could have figured out a way to do the Puck Beaverton stuff in a better way, but whatever.
Yeah, we know that Puck Beaverton has a swastika tattoo on his face.
Yeah, big old swastika.
And somehow mixed up in this. I forget how they say it.
So this is where the section of the movie where we see, hang on, Roy. I got to take a phone call real fast. Sorry.
Okay.
Hello.
Did she wake you up to tell you that it was only a change of plan? Dream up, let me fill your cup. The promise of a man.
Sorry about that. Do you ever order food from like Grubhub or DoorDash?
Yeah.
You have this option where you can, have them leave it on the doorstep and text you.
They're supposed to always do it now.
People always call me. I don't understand it.
Oh, yeah. They do, me too. I'm in a battle.
They never
right
read
now
the
with
instructions.
Uber Eats, where I'm just trying to sue them through some website because they just stole $40 from me.
Oh, wow.
I ordered KFC and they didn't deliver it, nor would cancel my order, then told me it was not their policy to give me a refund. I was like, what?
Geez.
You just don't give me food and take my money?
Yeah.
And I even have the picture, there's a driver and everything, and the picture of it dropping. There's they give you the picture of what it's like at your door to prove that this drop off happened, and the picture is just a black screen.
I've never gotten the picture.
Oh, I always get a picture of
I've heard of
always, but I've got something. They usually give you a picture. The picture is just a black screen. The food's not in it. My door's not in it. There's nothing. It's just black.
Yeah, these guys.
I sent them the picture. I was like, hey, look at this. They were like, and I just kept getting it would say you're connected with Ragnar or somebody to talk about it via chat. And then it would just be the same form letters over and over again about sorry, we cannot do this. But it's clearly they just have some weird series of buttons they push to tell you they can't do anything or give you any money. I just got so mad.
Fight them.
I am.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't get it. I ordered it to be delivered at a certain time. I want it by 5:20. I want it to be left on the doorstep. I'm busy. I'm doing a podcast in my underwear. So I get a call, interrupts my podcast. I have to put shorts on, go downstairs, and fetch my food from a guy.
I wanted to make a complaint about, we went through that scene at the board's house. The scene starts with Joanna Newsom narrating.
Yes.
And this is a case where it's I don't know why directors, sometimes it can be really hard to direct an actor, but I really wish Joanna Newsom was not the narrator of this movie. It would make a lot more sense for it to be Doc, but I guess it's a hip idea to make it a lady side character. But she's not a strong actor in that she doesn't understand the dialogue, and she misenunciate or misemphasizes words in the first sentence of the thing where she says that Doc and Dinas hadn't done LSD for years in this town without picking up a little bit of Doper's ESP. But it's the way she says they hadn't done. She sounds like she's saying they hadn't done it for years. It should be they hadn't done LSD for years in this town without picking up. It should be tripping like that more fast. So she just emphasizes that word years, she means they haven't done it in years. And I was just what? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's strange. You know what? Okay, we haven't really talked about the score, which is by Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead.
Oh yeah, I kind of liked it.
I like it. It's druggy and it's very downbeat.
Yeah, as a side movie, I watched, what's the other one? Phantom Thread, which I know you like Phantom Thread more. I still don't like that movie. I think it's really boring, but I like his score in that too.
Yeah, I like his score for the three, I guess the 4 PTA movies he's done. True. But yeah, once again shows that, like you said, the word malaise, PTA was, I think, trying to make a malaise movie, and the novel is not. The novel touches on it's like 70s malaise that's coming. It's anticipating it.
Yeah, the great malaise.
But you're talking about
this
Joanna Newsom.
Given her the Samantha Morton her treatment, to reference another Joaquin Phoenix movie where they just replaced an actress's voice.
Oh, really? With Scarlett?
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson was Samantha Morton when they filmed it.
Samantha
Morton's a fantastic actor. But yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I don't really like Joanna Newsom's delivery or voice either. And I like the music from the movie. When I go to listen to the music, most of the soundtrack with the Johnny Greenwood music is her talking over it.
That sucks. That you can't despite the score. That's messed up.
God damn you, PTA.
So he just whoever decided want you to enjoy this movie.
So I wanted to talk about this, the dope Drought flashback.
Oh, yeah.
Which is my favorite scene from this film, I think. Or I think the most emotionally resonant for me. And I don't really mind Joanna Newsom in this scene.
Honestly, the scenes where she's just playing her character, she's not that bad. It's the narration that annoys me.
We have this nice scene of when Doc and Shasta were in love and living together a few years before the story. And
I guess things were already starting to go bad, but
it was she explains it was a little bit later in the romance. So no one anywhere in the area can find weed anywhere. And so in their desperation, Doc and Shasta break out a Ouija board, and the Ouija board gives them a phone number. They call the number, and the number tells them that there's weed to be found at this certain address. So they rush out, and then it's raining out. I didn't think about this, but they must have put in the storm clouds and stuff. They must have done CGI or composited that, but it looks good. And you got some Neil Young music playing, and it's just, I don't know. That would not
have been released when the film is set, but that's not even
it made me think about my young freewheeling days.
Sure.
Running around barefoot like that, like they are and stuff. So I am reading a little bit about Inherent Vice, the film, and it says here that Quentin Tarantino was on set for this flashback stuff. And it says that he directed the Neil Young section, is what it's called, according to an interview that Christopher Nolan gave.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know how true that is.
Did your favorite part? That's funny. after we mentioned that he might have done a better job with the material.
I never heard that anywhere else. Why would he let him direct that?
I don't know. Tarantino directed that scene of Sin City.
Yeah, that's true. So the next thing that we see is Doc is going to go check out this Golden Fang building.
Yeah.
And it's the same alley. It's the same empty alleyway that they were directed towards for the weed, but now it has this insane fang shape.
This has to be CG.
It looks cool.
This is like the best part of the movie. One of the best parts as far as being like the book and just really working is where he goes to the Golden Fang building.
The way the camera creeps up,
the building looks great.
Yeah, they do a good job. He goes, so Phoenix is Doc is posing as someone else, a delivery guy. He's going to pick up a delivery, I think.
I can't remember exactly, but sure.
And the secretary buzzes him up into Rudy Blatnoid's office.
Dr. Rudy Blatnoid, yes, who I would not expect who they cast in this role, but he was great. And it just, this scene was really good to me. This whole little part with Rudy Blatnoid, I think is one of the best parts. And it has more tight editing. It has comedic timing. Like when they get in the car, they don't do it in a lackadaisical style. It's tight.
True. Yeah.
Afterwards, but yeah, Rudy Blatnoid, a coked out dentist he's one of the members of the Golden Fang.
Yeah, nice casting of Martin Short.
Martin Short, he's a pervy dentist, and we meet Japonica Fenway, who Doc once found for her father, who is a South Bay bigwig named Crocker Fenway.
Yeah, one of my favorite pension names, Japonica Fenway. It's this actress from Pretty Little Liars. My girlfriend recognized her.
She's good in the movie too.
Yeah, she's okay, and she's plays like a young girl who's under the spell of Rudy Blatnoid.
Yeah, she and Rudy Blatnoid are boning.
They end up in a car with her driving it.
Yes, it's her car because Dinas wrecks Doc's car when he was supposed to like just drive around with it while they were in there.
Okay.
And pick him up.
Yeah. So they get pulled over, and Martin Short has some hilarious stuff here.
Yes, when they first when they get in the car, one of the most funny things, like he just puts this bag under the under Doc's seat, passenger front seat. Rip Blatnoy jumps in the back wanting a ride, and is like, "Pay no attention to that bag; it will only make everyone paranoid."
And yeah, they get pulled over, and he's like, "We're so fucked." He just like increases like everyone's paranoia in that car. It's so good.
This is really funny in the book and really funny in the movie.
I remember liking it in the book as well. Yeah,
because she's like talks about the beast and stuff, and she tries to drive without headlights because she thinks she can see in the dark.
Yeah, with some more Manson references here. Yeah. And the cop lets him go.
Yeah.
Forget how the scene is even resolved. I guess just with the cop letting them go.
I think he wants Doc to drive or something. I forget.
Doc gets in the driver's seat.
There you go.
And the next thing that we see is Doc is driving up to Ojai to go to Criskyladon. And we get a little thing with another thing about Sortilege is that she's kind of ghostly. Like she's there, she's not there. She's this presence who's sometimes in the car with them and stuff. So Joanna Newsom is like in the car for just a little bit, explaining that Doc says Criskyladon, someone told me that's like an old ancient Indian word for healing. And she's like, nope, it's Greek. It means tooth made of gold. So that sets something off in him. He ends up checking out this clinic. It's like a kind of it's a rehab type of clinic place. And there's
where they're showing these films, these anti-communist films starring an actor who was maybe a guy who named names in the blacklist because he was a communist who turned conservative, named an actor made up named Burke Stodger.
Yes, who I wasn't sure was real or not when I was reading the book.
He's made up.
Garfield's real, Stodger's fake.
Yes.
Yeah,
Stodger.
We get a tour of Criskyladon.
And Burke Stodger is one of the former owners of the Golden Fang ship.
Right. Which is explained by Del Toro.
Yes.
Earlier in the story. Doc runs into those two FBI guys who work with Reese Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're
flat-leading borderliner there. This is a stand-in. This is a mix of something that actually happens in the book and the whole Vegas sequence.
Yeah.
Where he really runs into them in Vegas in the book, but when he's looking for Puck Beaverton. But here they're at this thing because what we see here also is he runs into someone else here. Yeah.
So how far in the film are we? Like over an hour, right?
Yes.
Over an hour in for just for the Eric Roberts hardcore aficionados. We see Roberts in the flesh as Mickey Wolfman.
Yes, and he is drying out there.
Yeah.
The feds have him there to wake him up from his bad hippie dream of giving all his money away.
What did this remind you of?
Oh, I don't know. What did it remind you of?
A very direct reference to The Long Goodbye.
The whole movie kind of reminded me of The Long Goodbye. In fact, they said that they shot test footage with film that had been improperly stored in Paul Thomas Anderson's garage, but ended up not using that for the movie. But if you remember that The Long Goodbye was famously, they flashed all of the film with light.
Mm-hmm.
To give it a weird look.
A little bit of bleached out.
The Long Goodbye is one of the big references for this whole look of the feel of this movie.
Yeah, the whole thing, but especially this scene, because there's a scene in that film where Elliot Gould.
Oh, he goes to what's the doctor that Henry Gibson plays.
Yeah, yes. Henry Gibson plays this rehab Mesmerino doctor.
Yes, yes, sir.
Has Sterling Hayden under his thumb.
Boy, and Henry Gibson is fun in that movie.
Yeah, the way he's prancing around, all funny in that scene in the rehab place. But so Doc finds Wolfman, and Wolfman is very loopy and weird. When Roberts notices Phoenix, he says, "Hello there, little hippie," and he asks him, "What? Help me out here in this scene." Doc asks him what he's doing there.
Yeah, and he's like, "My friends brought me here to help me wake up from my bad hippie dream."
Mm-hmm.
And then he says that housing should be free. it's wrong to charge for it.
His whole life he's been making money off of housing, and he realized that housing should be free.
Yeah, but the way he just says it here is confusing, because he says that he's waking up from the bad hippie drink, but then in the end he says that like he believes it now, but it's the thing that he would be waking up from.
Yeah, it is very confusing. He's not. I guess he's not quite woken up yet.
But I enjoyed Roberts in the scene.
He's good. Yeah, he looks frazzled.
Yeah. But also, like, you know, like I said earlier, like he is like a more virile Peter Coyote. Like there is like, he is supposed to have a sexual energy, and Robert's always being so fit and stuff, like, and maniacally so. He does seem more like Wolfman-y than a Peter Coyote. More wolf than Coyote.
Doc kind of blows it here by obsessively asking where Shasta is, which gets him shooed away. Wolfman finally just tells him to get out of there.
And this also, he wanders past a room where he sees a man rolling and unrolling the Mickey Wolfman tie that was missing from the collection of naked lady ties of women Mickey Wolfman has found, which was the tie of Shasta. And it's a man with a big Nazi tattoo on his face.
It's old Puck
Beaverton.
And
Puck
Coy
Beaverton's,
is there.
Yes, Coy is there too in a robe. That's right.
So right after this, we see another newspaper article that explains that Wolfman has reemerged, and he has like he's gone like straighter than ever, right? That's pretty much the gist of it. He's got all these Vegas real estate deals.
Not Brooke Stotcher, but Riggs Warbling's out of the picture.
Yeah, and he's got these big Vegas real estate deals going on.
That's one of the funny things in the book, is that in the movie they bring it up too, that he was building a free housing thing called Arrepimiento, which is like, they say Spanish for sorry about that.
They're like domes, right?
Yeah, they're like geodesic domes, but they're called zomes. And there's domes with like a crazy like point at the top, like a spire at the top of a dome. And they end up finding Riggs Warbling in one, who's like got a 45 Magnum or something, and just like all zonked out and sad, because I guess the zomes were like what his part of the whole thing was in, you know, and he had and he's all bummed out. And
man, I have the book. I kind of want to reread it, but
so you kind of get a little bit of heart for Riggs Warbling, as like isn't just this guy who wants to have sex with the wife and put Mickey Wolfman away. He actually had dreams.
Man, this is making me crave some. So Inherent Vice was the first Pynchon novel you read, right?
Yeah.
And then you got me into them, and then we kind of went through a series of them. You did it first, and then I kind of followed after, and then I didn't keep up as well as I could have, so there's some that I haven't read. And you still say Vice is your favorite?
No, I think that Mason and Dixon is probably my favorite, but I think Inherent Vice is the funniest book I've ever read. Like, even reading it, there are a lot of jokes that miss, but man, it just kept cracking me up. I tried to skim it. I reread it for this, and I tried to skim it, but instead I just ended up poring over every word because I wanted to get the humor. Yeah,
I read Inherent Vice, and I listened to the audiobook too. So I think I read it a year or two before the movie, and then right before the movie came out was when I did the audiobook. But the Pynchon book that really, I think, blew my mind the most was Against the Day, and I think it was just because of how damn long it was. Insanely long, insanely sprawling, insane cast of characters, and it was just, I felt like I had really accomplished something when I finished it, and it took me about a year to read it.
I really liked that one too.
I have a very, very slow reading pace, but when I came to the end of that, I felt like, wow, I've experienced some true literature. But back to the story of Inherent Vice that never ends. Shasta shows up unannounced back at Doc's place. This is where she gets naked and they fornicate.
Because there's something about how, like she wants him to punish her.
So you know where I stand
with Mickey Wolfman.
Yeah, you know where I stand on the way Catherine Waterston, I think, looks like her father. So I was going to ask you if this scene was titillating for you.
It was.
To me, it was just slow and
it was slow, but it was very slow, and the humor and stuff doesn't really work for me. But just her nudity was very titillating.
And you get the feeling at the end of this scene that the case is pretty much closed on Wolfman. That's done. It's kind of maybe sad in a way for Shasta because she was with him, and it seems like him reemerging in the way that he did is like their relationship's totally finished.
Okay, because it won't come back up, let me bring up here now that in the book, when Sancho's already explained this to Doc, that the feds want Wolfman to take over a casino like Howard Hughes, because even though he's Jewish, he's not he's more waspy. He's not a mafioso, essentially. They want more non-mob owned casinos in Vegas. So the whole plan to draw Wolfman out and get him off being a hippie is to get him to take over this casino called the Kismet in Vegas. And in the book, Doc goes to this casino not knowing that maybe yet to find Puck Beaverton and Einar. And he ends up meeting this casino manager who has a funny name I can't recall now. And there turns out you can gamble on the Mickey Wolfman kidnapping. And Doc wants to gamble that Mickey Wolfman has been kidnapped, but the manager keeps telling him it's like 100 to 1 long shot or something like that. And the smart money is on Mickey Wolfman never having kidnapped himself, like that Amy Temple Fearson or whatever that. What's Amy Simple? What's the lady's name that was the religious lady in California that supposedly got kidnapped and faked her own death, but really just wanted to run off with her lover? Amy Simple McPherson, I think is the lady's name. But at any rate, and the guy just keeps being like, don't bet on him, bet on that. And Doc refuses because he thinks he's so close to the situation as the chick that he knows Mickey Wolfman has really been kidnapped. But then immediately after he bets on the kidnapping, Mickey Wolfman is led past by Flatweed and Borderline, just blowing the whole thing. And so Doc's like, fuck, he just immediately lost the bet. But then in the end, Doc gets a letter from the casino after Mickey Wolfman has taken it over. And I wanted to just read this really fast, is that there was this is like in the last 10 pages of the novel. And it says, there was a pile of mail fanned out on the other side of the door sill, most of it pizza delivery menus, but one sumptuous envelope embossed in gold caught Doc's eye. He recognized the fake Arabic typeface of the Kismet Lounge and Casino in North Las Vegas. The first thing he saw inside the envelope was a check for $10,000. It looked real enough. After exhaustive review, said the cover letter, in which the best, and incidentally the most expensive, legal, psychological, and religious experts have been consulted, it has been determined that Michael Zachary Wolfman was in fact abducted against his will, and like the space aliens of nearby Area 51, his abduction remains inaccessible to ordinary legal remedy. The amount enclosed reflects our quoted odds of 100 to 1, though the betting lines at certain other casinos to the south of here would have provided a vastly more lucrative payoff. Tough luck, high roller. So it turns out, Mickey Wolfman doesn't want to say he kidnapped himself, and the feds can't admit it. So Doc actually ends up winning the bet, even though he knew he lost.
Yeah, that is really funny.
Yeah, so Doc ends up making some money on this, which he never makes any money in the movie.
Yeah,
and
throughout
tries
the whole
not to
thing.
make money in the book.
Yeah, most of his clients in the movie and in the book, right? They're always like, I can't pay you right now.
Well, the book and the movie have a big thing where he and Bigfoot are two sides of the same coin, and maybe it's Sortilege points this out to him that they're even more similar than he thinks. And she's like, well, your clients that pay, aren't they always people like Crocker Fenway who are really the man? Aren't you really just an agent for the man? And it really bums him out and kind of brings him to that kind of thing where he doesn't want to take money in the end from Crocker Fenway or anybody, and only wants to get all of his friends back safe. So he realizes that, man, he's not as much of a counterculture guy as he thinks. He's really just helping the man.
Yeah, who accuses him of that in the film? Maybe it is Fenway.
I can't remember. Yeah,
but that was effective. I think it is in the Fenway scene, which we're not to quite yet. So there's this thing here of Doc and Shasta hooking up, and then
but they're not officially a couple.
Yeah, this doesn't mean we're back together, gets said. And it's Doc he's still bugged about this coy Harlingen situation. So he goes to visit Penny at the office. I think the coy Harlingen thing is just something that he brings up. I think he's talking to Sortilege and he's just saying, yeah, that's not resolved yet. And I don't like it. It's nagging him. Anyways, he goes to the DA office, and this is when this Adrian Prussia character gets brought up. So there's a connection between this Prussia guy and the LAPD, and Doc is in the DA office and he's digging through some files. There's a nice scene where Joaquin
Adrian Prush is a loan shark guy that has a loan sharking business and is kind of famous, I guess, in the world of the book in LA. He has like bus stop ads and stuff, and was supposed to be
also a hitman.
Yes, it turns out he's also a hitman. And Doc, in the book, I used to have dealings with him, and Doc worked for a skip tracing operation was first a repo man and a skip tracer. You get a whole lot of backstory on Doc, and also he uses his old contacts at his old job to find the people in this and try to find Shasta and the Golden Fang because they have a proto-internet called ARPANET, and they're all and there's a lot of explanation of how this works, and people being like, yeah, in the future you're just going to be able to find anything online, you know? Yeah, there's a lot of proto-internet stuff with this character Fritz.
Who was supposed to play Prussia?
It was supposed to be Sean Penn, which kind of makes sense. Yeah, he dropped out, and they have this New York actor, older man, that isn't as familiar to me. I think. Yeah,
I don't know who it is.
Not as famous of a guy.
Doc is digging up some dirt on this Prussia guy and finds out that he's basically a hitman, and one of his murders is Bigfoot's.
Peter McRobbie as Adrian Prussia.
Maybe he's a Brit.
I think he's a New Yorker. Then he's like maybe just like Jeannie Berlin. You don't see him much because it's always on stage in New York or something.
Doc finds out that Prussia killed Bigfoot's partner, and it's kind of explains why Bigfoot is the way that he is.
Yeah, no one else will be Bigfoot's partner.
Yeah, and all these scenes with Brolin on the phone or meeting with Doc, it's like a weird... How would you describe Bigfoot?
Well, he's the anti-hippie guy, and he has a lot of funny lines that don't play that
he's
well.
Melancholy.
Yeah, he's kind of, he's melancholy.
He's like emotionally unstable, you know, like he's masking his sadness with the violence against Doc and with his toughness.
A lot of bad physical comedy.
He eats a lot. He likes sweets. He's eating the chocolate covered bananas, and there's him giving fellatio to the banana.
Yeah.
For like a ridiculously long period of time where you're like, I get it. I've seen it in 100 fucking movies before. Yeah. In the pancake scene, which is somewhere around here.
Yes.
Japanese pancake house.
Yeah. And in the movie, he has like in the book, he has some kind of scheme going where he's getting like graft from a frozen pancake not frozen pancake, but frozen banana place, where it's like he gets free frozen bananas from them due to something. It's like a kickback.
Yeah, that's funny.
So yeah, he gets Swedish pancakes from a Japanese thing, which is a great bit of LA. And it's like one of my favorite things in LA. And I didn't live in LA when I read the novel, but then when I moved to LA, I realized how true it was just the weird mixing of cultures at restaurants, where it's like, a terrible pizza place where you can get great huevos rancheros. And I know another pizza place called Delicious Pizza that has the best breakfast you can get.
Yeah, I remember when I was living in Cali right before.
We have like Senior Fish's sushi and stuff like that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's so good. Like I had read a blurb about The Big Lebowski where it said that it's a movie that perfectly captures the weird juxtapositions of Los Angeles, the cultural juxtapositions, and Pynchon really kicks that into high gear. And we have a few maybe like different restaurants that are mixing Indian food and Mexican food to terrible results. It's a place called Indie Mex over by my apartment that's fucking terrible. Yeah, which any big metropolitan area now is kind of dabbling in that sort of fusion stuff. Food trucks. I don't know if you have much food truck culture in LA, but
for sure.
In Austin, Texas, it was like all the rage. It seems like in most of the hip cities.
Even Oklahoma has lots of food trucks now.
It's everywhere. So Doc goes to visit Adrian Prussia at his office. And who is there?
Puck Beaverton.
Yeah. Puck Beaverton lights a joint and hands it to Doc. He talks to Prussia. Once again, I tuned out. They talked about some shit.
Yeah, he talks the one time, I guess they had a history where like one time Doc was supposed to do something and Adrian Prussia lent him a Carl Yastrzemski bat to beat a man to death with, and Doc wouldn't use it.
Yeah, he likes bats.
Yeah, he likes to beat people with bats, Adrian Prussia does. Adrian Prussia's like, I don't know why he didn't. He's like, too much respect for the Yaz. That's
so when
Yastrzemski's nickname for non-baseball fans.
When Doc gets hit in the back of the head at Chick Planet near the beginning of the movie,
it was with a bat.
Okay, so there's maybe Prussia.
Maybe so. Or Puck.
Yeah, Puck with the bat.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. I never connected that.
I just did just now.
Nice.
Yeah, so he talks to Prussia. Puck lights this joint. Doc is taking like some huge rips on the joint and then just like loses it. And Puck explains to him that it's laced with PCP. Roy, I just wonder if you've ever flirted with PCP.
Never seen it. Never seen it. I remember, we were told about it in junior high about some guy that like smoked some PCP and then took on all these cops naked. And I was like, wow, it sounds pretty awesome. Sounds like PCP PCP might turn you into a RoboCop or something.
Or you would hear stories like a guy took PCP and thought he could fly, so he jumped out the window. But I've never heard.
Never come across. I never even talked to anybody who's done it.
Yeah, that's what I was really wondering is if you ever knew anybody who ever did it or knew anybody who did it. Pretty scary drug.
I'd be curious to try it. I was in a very safe environment.
If you're in a padded room.
Yeah. Yeah, like just by the beach or something in Carpinteria, where it's all like, unless you just want to drown yourself, there's not much to hurt you.
You probably would want to do that.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, you know what I'd never want to do otherwise? Drown myself.
It seems like a drug that's designed to make you just do dangerous things.
My skin's too dry.
I gotta get in there. So Doc passes out, and when he wakes up, he's cuffed on a pipe of some kind with old Puck Beaverton in there. And Puck is going to give him a lethal dose of heroin.
Yeah, from the Golden Fang.
So he's going to get rid of him. And he does what every bad guy in every story ever does. He explains what he's going to do, and then he leaves. Doc pulls out a little shiv or a little it's a lock pick out of his boot or his sandals that he wears.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where it's like in the book, you're not that surprised that Doc is capable, but the movie does a poor job of setting up that he is pretty good at being a detective. He has a lot of skills for as stoned as he always is and out of it. He does have a long history of building skills and shows several times in the book and a few times in the movie. They do, like with the thing about every contact leaves a trace with the gold on the tooth. He does know things.
Yeah, he's not a dumbass stoner.
He's a stoner, but he's not totally a dumbass. Yeah. People think he is, but then he constantly will surprise you with knowing stuff, which is kind of one of the delights of the book, because he does have detective skills.
Well, I think
come out a lot here in this little scene.
Yeah, the concept of a stoner detective is funny. You know, it's a guy who needs to be sharp and needs to be
and whom they always
have his wits about him.
Yeah, they bring up like it's got to be tougher to be a detective when you're stoned with all the paranoia opening up alternate universes for your mind to go down.
Right. You know, I never realized until this is something that just missed me until like a few years ago. I was thinking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I realized, it's a joke. I never realized it was a joke because turtles are slow.
Oh, I didn't get that. I didn't get that either.
And ninjas are fast. So it's a slow animal that moves fast. So the stoner private eye thing, I think, is similar. But yeah, it is funny about the paranoia makes you probably pursue clues and ideas that
aren't even there, man.
So Doc does pick the lock. It's pretty cool the way he does it. And the shiv or the little pick that he has, it's like a sliver of a credit card that has Shasta's name on it.
Yeah, Shasta's name on it. That's right. Nice.
That was kind of a neat detail.
Yeah, there are a few little things here, like when I read that sequence and he was typing that thing. But in the movie, he writes on a little pad, not hallucinating. And he writes a few other things on that little pad throughout the movie that are added by Paul Thomas Anderson that aren't in the book. And it's a good little bit, but they're mostly, once again, not edited effectively to get a good laugh, but they're at least a good little visual gag. And there's another thing where he talks to Bigfoot on the phone and we see Bigfoot's son with the flat top pouring whiskey for Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a good addition before we meet Bigfoot. Like hectoring wife.
Yeah, the hectoring wife. I forgot about that.
Yeah, who's done in kind of a Peanut style.
The way that Doc overpowers Puck as he grabs the lid of a toilet tank, much like in the film True Romance.
Oh, yeah.
And he busts old Puck over the head before Puck can return with the lethal dose. And this to me was like a very sloppily put together scene. Is like he busts the thing over his head and like you barely even see that Joaquin Phoenix blasts the heroin into Puck's arm and kills Puck with it.
Yeah, it did seem kind of like crappily staged. Like think about how good it is in, not that Boogie Nights is my favorite movie, but think about Don Cheadle in that donut shop.
Yes.
It's like, where's the director of that for this?
Or the scene with Alfred Molina.
Oh, yeah.
And the tension in that.
Where's that?
And that damn Jethro Tull song that
Fat Man.
That they bring back one or two times in it. Yeah, you don't get any of that tension, It's like
No.
PTA is a big Jonathan Demme fan, and Demme was a good suspense guy. He could do suspense really well, but somehow he just drops the Demme ball here. Like he didn't.
I mean, those scenes in that movie recall to me Scorsese most of all, but here it just recalls crap.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's just trying to be more hands off.
I don't know. Yeah, everything about it seems like the determination to do its own thing, much to the discredit of the film.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like,
let's be different.
It's well cast, it's got a good soundtrack, but the whole thing is very miscalculated.
Yeah, it's weird.
And you feel like PTA he's not fully inspired in this.
No, which is odd because, it's like obviously it's a passion project, and you read that he wanted to do other Pynchon novels beforehand, and you're like, why go so much against the grain once you did it?
Yeah, you just want him to go further. Like
and get real. Yeah, true. Yeah, this whole action sequence here, because then now what happens is, he gets out, he murders Puck, gets out, or kills Puck. I don't know if you wouldn't call that a murder. Yeah, that he gets out. Now he shoots Adrian Prussia.
Yeah, he shoots Prussia. That's not very suspenseful.
No, it's terrible.
Prussia doesn't even draw a gun on him or anything.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like that. As he's escaping, he runs into Bigfoot, who's loading up like tons of heroin into the car.
Yeah, into Doc's car, right?
Not yet.
Oh, never mind. My bad.
Because he's got to take him to Doc's car. Something about his car got impounded. Maybe it happened with the Blatnoid episode.
With Dinas. Yeah.
I don't remember. Somehow, Doc parked illegally or left his car somewhere and it got impounded, and Bigfoot is going to take him to it. So somewhere in the switching of the cars, without Doc knowing it, Bigfoot loads up the trunk of Doc's car with all that heroin. But the Doper's ESP thing comes back.
There's also a good thing where Doc is like, did you think Prussia was just going to shoot me or what? You just want to leave us to shoot out? And he's like, and Bigfoot's like, no, I've seen you on the range. I knew you're pretty good with a firearm.
Yeah.
It's like another one of those, like, Doc actually does have skills thing. It shouldn't be, Bigfoot was not shocked that Doc came out on top of the gunfight.
But damn, Prussia was an assassin.
Yeah, Prussia was a government assassin.
Jesus. So Doc gets his car back, but he decides to check the trunk first, and it's just full of all of this Golden Fang heroin.
Yeah, this is the thing that's cut out of the movie because, well, once again, it's like this was a thing I could easily see them not wanting to film. But he realizes they've tried to entrap him with this heroin in his car. And what he does in the book is he goes to the Van Nuys, I want to say, airport, and like fakes putting it in luggage to get lost by this Kahuna Airlines that flies to Hawaii. It's famous for losing luggage. And then he does a big fake freak out with the intercom system and says all this insane shit to draw attention to himself for being there and doing it.
Yeah, isn't he a big Frank Sinatra fan?
Yeah, he starts singing Sinatra or something. That's right. Yeah, it's a really good scene. Another scene of him just doing something smart. But yeah, they don't have that in the movie. You kind of understand why. It's really it's expensive.
Yeah, instead,
an endless movie.
To get rid of the heroin, he calls Japonica Fenway's father.
Yeah, which happens eventually. But in the book, first he takes the heroin home, puts it in his house, and Dinas asks what it is. Dinas says he thinks it's a TV, and they start watching it, just watching the big bag of heroin. And then they get stoned, and the bag starts to move to them in ways, and they almost like it is TV. Then later on, Dinas reveals that he knew it wasn't really a TV or something. At some point, he realized it was heroin and just kept watching it.
Dinas is such a missed opportunity. I think they should have gone full Cheech and Chong kind of guy. And
yeah, I mean, the casting is kind of like how I imagine. It's funny. I imagine him as being really small, but he seems tall in the movie, but it's just because Joaquin Phoenix is so small, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. That actor just doesn't do anything with that
You're
role.
Right. He has the look, but he doesn't engage.
No, he should have gone full on cartoonish stoner, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dinas is a caricature.
So Doc gets in touch with old Martin Donovan.
Yes, as Crocker Fenway. This was a great thing. So another thing cut out is that the way that Doc is obsessed with John Garfield, the other side of the coin of who's the big representative of the man is Bigfoot Bjornson's obsessed with Wyatt Earp. And when Doc was in Vegas, he was at some like weird pawn shop or something and bought a tie that was supposedly owned by Liberace. That's like a rhinestone keyboard, crazy ass tie.
Yeah.
And he bought a mug that has like a top, a coffee mug with a top to keep your mustache out of it that was supposedly owned by Wyatt Earp. And Bigfoot tells him that guy he bought it from is notorious for selling fake Earp memorabilia among Earp collectors. But then it turns out the mug was real and worth a lot of money. And he's like, oh, what about that Liberace tie? And then so when he's going to meet Fenway, it's going to be at Fenway's Country Club. And he needs to wear a suit. And so he wears a suit he got at an MGM lot sale that was worn by John Garfield in a movie. And he wears the crazy ass tie that was owned by Liberace. So you can just imagine he shows up in this weird mismatching outfit. But in the movie, he has kind of just a hippie outfit.
Man, I would like to see a miniseries.
However, the scene with he and Martin Donovan, I think, is excellent. And I thought Martin Donovan was great. I thought the comedic timing of the scene was good. It is a weird, like, Martin Donovan's playing John Huston.
Well, I am a Martin Donovan fan.
Yeah, I like him too.
Going all the way back to the Adventures of Pete and Pete when he played the crossing guard.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Who smoked cigarettes.
Very good. Yes, good call. I forgot he was even that part. Oh, man, he is funny on that. Yeah, so he's good and he's great in this.
Crocker Fenway explains those I represent are willing to offer a reward for the return of their property. So this kind of goes into the thing we were talking about earlier about Doc selling out by taking money from the man.
And he won't, so he refuses money here. But he has that line where he's like, how much? And the guy Fenway just keeps trying to push money on him. And he's like, how much would I have to take to just keep your respect? He's like, people like you lose all our respect the minute you pay rent.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking about earlier. So that's it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like by renting at any point, you've lost rich people's respect.
But yeah, in lieu of money, he wants Coy Harlingen to be freed.
Well, we forgot one thing, that Doc was briefly suspected for murder.
I think we forgot many things, Roy.
Yeah, oh yeah, we did. Sancho Smilov's obsession with the Golden Fang. But yeah, we forgot that Martin Short dies. Like, we don't see it, but he is found dead on a trampoline.
Yeah, he broke his neck.
Yeah, broke his neck on a trampoline, and Doc is briefly suspected since he's the last person with him alive.
That's right.
And then it's like Doc's pretty sure that Crocker Fenway did it, and Crocker Fenway goes into this whole thing about, why would I kill a man for molesting my daughter and all this stuff? He's like, isn't your daughter of age? A daughter is never old enough or of age to her father or something like that. He has a lot of crazy language. Like he wants to fuck his daughter. It's really funny. Him just not admitting that he murdered Rudy Blatnoyd, but admitting he murdered Rudy Blatnoyd, making her listen to show tunes in garishly furnished hotel rooms
with the lamps.
Yeah.
This thing he says about the lamps is pretty funny.
The delivery is great.
Yeah, so Doc bargains
angles on Martin Donovan are very well done.
Yeah, and he looks exactly like a 1970s rich straight.
Oh yeah, Martin Donovan's a great wasp.
A wasp, that's it. Yeah. So Doc is going to get Coy freed.
That's right. And, so he ends up, instead of money, he just wants to be made sure that Coy's out and nobody's going to come after his friends.
We see Owen Wilson excitedly leaving the Cruskylodon Institute in Ojai.
Yeah.
He's like,
you were saying
completely cleared.
The most moving thing to you was the part where they have the flashback with Shasta and Doc. To me, it was the things with Owen Wilson I found to be the most emotionally effective.
Yeah. I felt like it could have been a little bit better. Like,
it could have.
The music is good here when he drops him off at the house and he's reunited with Hope and the daughter and stuff. I mean, it's almost there. This is a movie that
line about where it's like where Coy says that, like the Indians say that if you save a man's life, you owe. He's like, no, man. Some hippie made that up.
Yeah, I like that line. So the next thing that we see is Bigfoot busts in. Doc is back in his house.
That was the end of the movie.
All is well. He's rolling a joint. He's sitting down by his coffee table, and Bigfoot kicks the door in and comes in and apologizes.
And then
We
wants
have
to
some
smoke
more,
weed.
some more weird synchronicity with them. How they're two
this is
sides
where
of
they
the
start
same
saying
coin.
things at the same time, which also happens. There is a scene in the book where they start earlier, where they start saying things at the same time.
Yeah.
Freaking Doc out, freaking them both out.
Yeah, so he takes Doc's joint from him and takes a pull on it, and then he just eats the joint.
And the eats all that, and then he takes that tray of weed and starts eating it, right, or something.
Yeah, he grabs a fistful of weed buds and chews on that, and then dumps the whole tray.
They tried different jokes here, and that's what they came up with as the funniest, was him eating all the weed. Did you find it very funny?
If they would have ended with him eating the joint, I think just them smoking together would have been kind of weird and funny.
Yeah, I didn't need him eating the stuff. Wasn't that funny to me at all. It was kind of lame.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah, just them smoking the joint would have been enough.
And nothing is really resolved for Big. It's kind of when I saw the movie again, I watched it twice over the last week or so. I felt sad for Bigfoot. Like when he leaves in this scene, I kind of feel like it's unresolved.
That's kind of in the book. We don't see Bigfoot at the end scenes of the book. We see him probably before that heroin thing. Oh yeah, we also missed that. Yeah, Doc ends up delivering the heroin in a parking lot to like a family of 4 that are right-wing people that are like dealing with the Aryans and arms dealers and stuff. We learn about at some point. There's just all these like right-wing families, and they delivers it to like a family of 4 with like kids and stuff.
Somehow I thought it was Crocker's family minus
no, it's just a random new family we haven't met before. That's just
another wasp family.
White bread wasp family, that's like in some kind of militia.
So the last scene in the movie is Doc driving with Shasta.
Oh, but wait, when Bigfoot goes away, he says like, "I'm not your brother, Bigfoot, but you sure need a keeper." That line of sadness happens in the book too. The last time we see Bigfoot or something, at some point, like Doc looks at him as after he's left already. He says, "Man, I'm not your brother, but you sure do need a keeper."
He walks out all defeated. And so we see Doc and Shasta in the car at night. And there's this stony dialogue that I didn't pay very close attention to.
Yeah, where he says something about the Ouija board was set up by Sortilege, that that it wasn't magic, probably.
We didn't
still believe it was magic.
Yeah, we don't really get a button with her. She's
Sortilege?
Yeah.
No, not really.
I can't even remember the last time we see her in the flesh in the movie. She's just gone, and maybe there's a little bit of narration leading up to this scene. I don't remember, but the last line, I believe, is Doc saying, "This don't mean we're back together."
Yeah, and then they just drive for a while looking in their own worlds a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like this ending. The book ends in another crazy way with a lot of just like Doc thinking about LA and driving around at the end.
In the fog, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, he's in traffic in the fog in the end. That's right. You're right. But I didn't like this ending because to me, I never liked them together. So the idea that in the end they're kind of half together and stuff, it didn't do it for me. I just didn't want to end with he and Shasta.
Should have ended with him and Penny.
Yeah, we're with Jade.
Yeah.
No, he and Jade never hook up in the book at all. Like I think, he ends up hooking up with Luce the maid at some point. Yeah, there's
a pretty weak ending for the film.
Yeah, kind of but melancholy, weird, another malaise ending, heading into that 70s malaise. I guess maybe that's what Thomas Anderson is going for at that ending. And then we get this like the neon credits with everybody in their character they played.
Yeah,
down to small detail characters. They're barely in it, like the Dr. Threepley and stuff.
Well, Eric Roberts was good in it.
Yeah. It had its moments.
So is it my turn for the next Roberts?
It sure is. Do you know offhand already what you want to see, or do you want to think about it?
Well, I've thought about it, and I've never seen The Expendables.
Me neither.
I don't even know how much Roberts is in it.
I don't know either.
But apparently he's the main villain.
Oh, wow.
So I get the feeling that he's got some kind of a sizable... He's probably has more screen time than in Inherent Vice.
I would hope so.
So I'm thinking we're going to travel to 2010.
Wow, we're in 2 big movies in a row. That's crazy.
Yeah, 2 big ensemble movies.
I'm down. Because usually, yeah, Okay, I'm in on the Expendables.
Cool.
Do you have
I
more
thought you had
notes on
seen
this
it.
one? No, I've never seen it. Never had any desire.
No.
Looks like pure trash to me. But
I think about PTA a lot because he's just one of those big dogs that everyone talks about. He's an American auteur, and I anticipate everything that he comes out with just because I think you and I had a conversation about this before where he's a guy that you root for.
Sure.
You want him to swing as hard as he can. You want him to
because he's able to get a movie made like he wants to make it on a
That's
level,
exactly
on a scale he wants to make it. And so, yeah, I do root to see a good Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and I do think he's talented.
I didn't love The Phantom Thread.
I think you liked it more than I did.
Yeah,
my recollection.
I was care for it. Just not as disappointed by it as I was by Vice, and The Master.
You know, I rewatched The Master maybe a year ago, and removed from all expectations of a involving drama, I kind of liked The Master. That was one that grew on me. Just watching all the crazy. Philip Seymour Hoffman was cracking me up. I kind of liked it a lot more than I expected to upon rewatch. I don't like Punch Drunk Love.
See, that's one that that's maybe my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson. I didn't like it at first. It bothered me, but
I rewatched it a while back and was still just like, no.
Yeah.
I like Hard Eight a lot.
So in between There Will Be Blood, which everyone seems to like, and I think is pretty good.
I like There Will Be Blood. It's not I don't like it as much as some people because I mostly just like the first half of the movie, but I do like it.
So after There Will Be Blood was The Master, then Inherent Vice, then The Phantom Thread. Am I missing one?
I think that's where we're at with that. Then before that was Punch Drunk Love was before that, and then you had Magnolia, Boogie Nights, Hard Eight. I think that's it.
He's got another 70s one coming out this year, I think. Or next year. Yeah, it's a 70s set movie. Bradley Cooper, I think, is the star, one of the stars of it.
I like Bradley Cooper.
So we'll see how it goes. But I feel like Inherent Vice was a misfire. And that's